You just have to think 14 moves ahead, that's all.
If you've just picked up a new iPhone, you're probably celebrating like. Meanwhile, your bank account, if it were a person, would be looking at you like. Because yes, it's an expensive phone, and that's exactly why you need to learn how to get the most out of your new iPhone by unlocking its full potential. Some of the tips and tricks that I'm going to show you in this video are features that only the pros know. And then some of them will be quite basic but important day one settings, you know, the common sense stuff. But you probably also know common sense isn't that common these days. And that's probably why there's going to be a lot of people out there who are missing out on some of the iPhone's best features. But now, you're not going to be one of those people. So listen, even if you're an iPhone seasoned pro, I'm hoping you're going to be like,
I'll stay.
Just to see if there's anything new here that you haven't seen before. And if you haven't upgraded for a long time, well, you're about to learn a whole bunch of new stuff. So let's kick this off with some customization. If you've just transferred your old iPhone to this new one, well, then the wallpaper probably also transferred over, and your new phone might instantly feel like not very new. So that's a good reason to give it a refresh. To do this, go to Settings, then Wallpaper. Here you can create a home and lock screen wallpaper pair. The categories are across the top, and I'm not going to go through all of them, but here's a little word of advice. It might be an idea to set up at least 3 pairs because it's going to be important later on in the video. So let me just show you a fun option and then a very useful one, and then how to create a custom one. So the emoji wallpaper is great fun to play with. Simply choose an emoji, and you can even choose up to 7 different ones if you want. Hit the little color icon down here to change the background color. And if you want, you can swipe across to change the pattern. Obviously, spend a bit of time on this because this setup that I've got right here, yeah, this looks like.
That is one big pile of shit.
So let me just switch this up real quick. Yeah, this is better. Now, once you've created this, you can set it as a wallpaper pair. And if you tap here, you can customize the home screen wallpaper separately and actually use an entirely different one if you want. And the settings for the home screen wallpapers are important, and we'll come back to that in a moment. But first, let me show you that useful wallpaper that I was referring to. Same as before, go into Settings and Wallpapers. This time, choose the weather wallpaper. Now, the reason this is good is because it shows you the weather conditions outdoors in your geolocation right there on your home screen and on your lock screen. So you can see how this could be useful if you're stuck indoors for the majority of the day. The third wallpaper I'm going to set up is the custom wallpaper. So at the top, you could choose Photo Shuffle if you want, but I'm just going to go with the single image from the gallery because there's a little effect here that I want to show you when it comes to lock screen. So I'm going to use this Master Yoda one to demonstrate this. When you add a wallpaper that has a clear foreground and background, what you'll see is this little hexagon icon right here. If you tap this, this adds a spatial effect to the wallpaper. This only applies to the lock screen though. And then if you hit the little 3 dots to the side of it, you can also add that depth effect so that the foreground actually sits in front of the clock and the clock can drop in behind. But as you can see, Master Yoda's hair is not being cut out perfectly. So just try and use an image where you've got a nice clear line around the subject. Anyway, I think this looks pretty good. All right, this brings me really nicely onto something else you might want to do on day one. Not just for aesthetics, but also to improve the functionality of your lock screen. Hold your finger down on the lock screen. Hit Customize at the bottom. Just like before, you could tap the clock to restyle it, change the colors, change the size. And if you don't like the glass effect, tap where it says solid and that gets rid of it. The day and the date at the top is kind of a widget area and you can customize it. I actually like having my calendar up here because it lets me know if there's anything that I need to do on that specific date. Just a nice little reminder. Now, if you tap this little bar here, this is where you can add widgets. And the great thing about this is it can actually be pinned lower down the screen, making it much easier to access one-handed. And this is a really useful space to add shortcuts to specific app features. For example, if you wanted, you could add the ChatGPT live chat widget right down here. And this is fantastic for whenever you have a quick question about anything, even quantum physics. The health widget gives you a nice heads up on how you're doing that day and it jumps straight into the app. Also, you could add your VPN here, for example, whenever you're on a public Wi-Fi. Just tap that on the lock screen and it jumps straight into your VPN settings. But do keep in mind there are only 4 spaces here, so use them wisely. Okay, one bit of visual customization that you need to know about on day one is how to customize the icons. So Apple has introduced their new liquid glass effect, which is nice, but only when paired with certain wallpapers. If it's not your cup of tea and it just doesn't work with your background, well, you might want to change it up a bit. To do this, just hold your finger down on the display. All the icons start to jiggle and then you can hit edit, then customize. So there's the default light mode, there's the dark mode. There's also a mode here that matches the glass effect to the wallpaper. And then you've got the tinted option, which is by far the best in my opinion, where you can manually dial in the tint of that glass. And this can look really nice if you do it right. There's also the option within this to switch between light and dark mode, which will match the phone's color. And if you want, you can use the eyedropper to grab a color from your wallpaper that will tint your glass to match. If you want to enlarge the icons and get rid of the app labels, just hit this little button right here. But for some reason, and this kind of bothers me quite a bit, it creates a massive gap between the docked apps at the bottom and the first row. I don't understand why there is such a massive space here. There's almost enough space for an entire extra row of apps. I think Apple's design team needs to work on closing this gap a little. Anyway, moving on. Okay, so if you haven't upgraded your iPhone for a couple of years now, or a few years, you've probably noticed there's a couple of new buttons. Let's start with the action button, which can be found on the left side just above the volume buttons. By default, this toggles the silent mode on and off. And do not mistake silent mode for do not disturb mode. You'll see what the difference is a little later on. Anyway, if you go into the settings, go to action button. Here you can see the preset options that you have. Two little side notes. Do not set this up as a camera button or as visual intelligence, and that will become clear in a moment as well. I personally think out of the preset options that you have here, the two most useful ones are either focus mode or control. And just for demo, if you do select control, the action button can then perform actions within apps or even launch specific apps, which could be very, very useful. And if your phone is box fresh, as you start to install more and more apps, you'll see more and more options available here. But check this out. If you want to make the action button 8 times more useful, I got a little hidden pro trick which I'm going to share with you guys a little later on, so stick around. Okay, now let's move on to the second new button. It is, of course, the camera control button located on the lower right side of the device. This can be customized, but I think before you go ahead and do any of that, it's really important that you know how this is set up by default, because this is the way Apple want you to use it. A quick tap on this button opens up the camera app, and then once it's open, if you swipe left to right or right to left, you can switch between the lenses. So if you want to zoom in really far away without having to even locate the camera app, you can do that.
Let me see.
A little double tap brings up the pro controls for the camera, and then you can slide around to navigate, and then it's a double tap to select, and then a long push and hold to snap a photo. Now this is pretty useful, but check this out. If we close the camera app, and this time instead of tapping the camera control button, if you push and hold it, this jumps straight into Apple's visual intelligence feature, which is actually kind of a combination of ChatGPT and Google's image search tools. Once you snap an image using visual intelligence, you can either do a quick search for what it is, and Google will provide that information, or you can type in a question about what you're looking at for ChatGPT to answer. And if you think about it, this could be great for any time you see anything you don't understand. If you're in a foreign country, for example, or there's a product you want to know what it is, if there's a bit of text that you want to translate, and that kind of stuff. So just be aware of how to access visual intelligence very quickly. All right, so performing quick actions with less swipes and less taps is really the best way to streamline your iPhone's interface. And there's quite a few good ways to do that, but here's one of them. Bring down your control center by swiping down from the top right corner, and then hit the little plus icon. Here you can delete any of the tools that are unnecessary. For example, if you have the camera control button, why do you need a shortcut to the camera here? You can also resize these control buttons if you want, so the more important ones can be bigger. And definitely spend a bit of time to have a look at the options available here. To do this, just hit the add a control, bit of text over here, and have a look through the available tools. And if you want to, you can fill this entire page, but do keep in mind that there are actually 3 pages by default that you can customize, and you can even add a 4th page if you really want to do. Anyway, what I want to show you here is the music tab. You may want to actually shrink the size of the music control area, because then you can now add more widgets that are related to audio on this page. For example, the ambient music options here are pretty sweet. You might want to add all of these just below the music player. And there is one audio feature on iPhone which is so useful, and it's kind of hidden away. It flies under the radar for most people. It's this icon right here, this little ear. When you set this up and you tap it, you can now access the background sound library, which is stored locally on the iPhone. It's not streaming online. Trust me, next time you want to sleep on a long journey, these gentle sounds combined with some nice noise cancelling headphones will help you sleep like a baby. Unless, of course, it's a Ryanair flight, because Ryanair. Okay, I'm being a bit harsh. There might be some people out there who enjoy finding out that their knees can still touch their chin when in a seated position. Okay, here's a bonus tip for making it this far into the video. And this is just a quick one, but it's extremely important for anyone who's not in America. At some point, you might wonder why there doesn't seem to be much AI options on your new iPhone, particularly when it comes to the keyboard. Well, there's a really simple setting that you need to change to unlock Apple's intelligence features, which of course includes the writing tools. So have a look at this. Go to Settings, then go to Apple Intelligence and Siri. Here you need to make sure this is actually switched on.
No shit.
So yeah, that's kind of obvious. The second part to this is to check that the language is set to the same language as your phone. Mine was actually set to English United States, and my phone region was set to English United Kingdom. And because of that, the AI wasn't working at all. So just make sure the language of your phone matches the language here within the AI settings, and you should be good to go. Now there is one more step to this, and this brings me on to the next tip. So this is really important on day one because it will level up your phone's AI massively. So staying within this same page right here, scroll down to extensions, then tap here. And if you haven't got ChatGPT already, this will shortcut you to where you can download it. I highly recommend you get this because Apple and OpenAI have kind of become business partners recently, and the iPhone is designed to use ChatGPT primarily as its AI go-to source. So just set up a free account and then come back here and make sure it's linked up as an extension. Because remember earlier on that visual intelligence trick that I showed you, only half of the features will work there if you don't do this. All right, now you've got your AI up and running and you've unleashed the full power of the machines. You might want to know how to use it to your advantage. Well, this is definitely one of the best use cases. Whenever you're writing anything anywhere on your phone, and maybe you're trying to convey an important message, but for some reason it's just not hitting right, what you can do is highlight all of the text and then hit the Apple Intelligence icon just here, and then give it a little idea of what it is you're trying to say, and it will do all of the hard work for you. And there are a bunch of other AI tools here which are really self-explanatory. I don't need to go through each one of them. I'm sure you'll figure it out. But there is one extremely powerful tool within the writing tools, and this is most useful when you're completely lost for words. If you go to Compose, tell it what it is you're trying to say, and it will do your homework, your writing for you. Piece of cake. Okay, here's another little AI tool which is a little bit similar to the camera visual intelligence tool which I showed you earlier. To make this work properly, go into your settings, then go to the general section and go to screen capture. Make sure you've enabled the automatic visual lookup tool. Now, whenever you screenshot anything using the power button and volume up button at the same time, you can highlight smaller areas of that screenshot that you want to learn more about. And again, you'll get results from Google image search, but you'll also have the option to access ChatGPT here as well. All right, this is brand new. Do you hate spam callers? I already know the answer to that, and I know that's why you're gonna love this new setting. Go to Settings, then go to Apps. Scroll down to Phone, and then on this page, scroll down to where you see Screen Unknown Callers, and set this to Ask Reason for Calling. Now, whenever a private or unknown phone number contacts your phone, they'll get an automated voice which actually asks them for some information about who they are, what the subject of the conversation is, and you can actually see the transcription on screen so you know if it's a legit call or just another scammer. All right, remember way back in this video when I spoke about setting up 3 wallpaper pairs? Well, here's why I said that. It's a very noisy world. Every company and every app is trying to market to you. And honestly, if you're trying to study or something, you're not gonna remember much if your iPhone is constantly blowing up with notifications and shopping deals and things like that. So what I'm getting at here is, you know what you're expected to do, right?
What do you expect me to do? Focus.
Here's how to do that. In your phone settings, go to Focus. To get started, maybe just set up 2 of these so you're not overwhelmed. A Do Not Disturb is a very good one. I personally think it's better than putting your phone in silent mode because you can actually choose to allow important things to come through. For example, your burglar alarm. Maybe that could be quite important. You don't want to get robbed while your phone's on silent. And maybe there's some important contacts in your phone book that you might want to allow to pass through. So definitely set those up here. And there's also this new feature, the Intelligent Breakthrough Silencing, which actually uses AI to decide if it is an alert that's worthy of passing through the Do Not Disturb mode. So you might want to switch this on and test it out. Now here's where it gets a bit more interesting. When you scroll down on this page, you can actually select a custom wallpaper combo that you set up earlier on. And if you have an Apple Watch, you can even set up a custom wallpaper that your watch will switch into when you're using this focus mode. And there is another little step to this. Once you enable this focus mode, you can customize the icons like I showed you earlier, so you can have different icon styles for each focus mode if you really wanted to. So let's say this Do Not Disturb focus mode is what you're going to use when you're at school or at work. You can actually have the phone automatically switch into these modes when you're at those specific geolocations. And you can do this by hitting where it says add schedule and then inputting the location. So the do not disturb focus mode is for when you're trying to concentrate. Here's another mode that I recommend spending a little time setting up: the sleep focus mode, or night focus mode, whatever you want to call it. For this one, again, you can choose different wallpapers, and I highly recommend you use a warmer tone in the background. Something that reduces the amount of blue light is ideal, because blue light can mess up your sleeping patterns. Again, you can set up different permissions here for who's allowed to pass through, what apps are allowed to pass through. And if you want to, you can also change the wallpaper on your watch. Now you might be wondering why I said set up 3 wallpapers as minimum. Well, that's because when you switch off the focus mode by going into your control panel and tapping to toggle it off, it goes back to the default mode. And this is where you can use that 3rd wallpaper for just everyday use when you're kind of casually lounging around watching videos like this one. All right, here's that advanced pro user tip. The action button is just one button. Here's how you can use it to open up 8 different options that perform complex actions, even within apps, in just 2 moves, as opposed to many. Swipe across to your app library, search for the Shortcuts app. This is an official Apple app. In the library tab, hit the folder with the plus next to it, and this creates a folder. And you can call this action button, give it an appropriate icon. Now tap on this folder and hit the plus. And here, choose controls. Now you can choose to set up silent mode. But there is one change you need to make. Make sure you change turn to toggle. This means that when you touch it, it just toggles between off and on, as opposed to just setting it on and then not being able to switch it off. Now at the top, just hit the little drop down arrow and rename it as silent. Choose an icon and a color for this shortcut. You can make it look exactly like the regular silent icon. And now that's set up and it's within your action button folder. Now let's repeat this again. Hit the little plus, create another action. For example, you could create a shortcut to set the brightness of your display to just 5% instantly without having to go anywhere else on the phone. This could be great for reading at night. Again, just make sure you give it a name, give it an icon, give it a color. And using this same method, hitting the plus, you can actually create shortcuts to jump straight into apps, and in some cases even perform actions within apps. And if you really know what you're doing, you can create some really advanced routines here. But for now, let's just keep it simple. Map out the most useful shortcuts that you would actually use on a daily basis. And these are the ones that I've set up for myself. Maybe that will give you some inspiration for things that you could set up that would work for you. Okay, so once you've created this, go back to settings, go back to the action button settings and set it to the shortcut. Then tap where it says show folder and select your newly created action button folder. And now whenever you tap the action button, you get all of those quick options and you can just swipe upwards on this area to get rid of it. And if you do spend a bit of time doing this, you're gonna save time in the future. And that is so important because, as you know, nobody can give you your time back.
Can you give me back my time? Can you give my time back to me? Huh? Can you?
But if you can save it, well then, you're winning. Okay, here's a brand new camera feature on the iPhone. It's one of the best upgrades this year, in my opinion. When you're using the selfie camera on your phone, it's important you know that there are 2 settings that are actually switched off by default. You'll notice you have this option to manually rotate the sensor crop on the front camera so that you can have a landscape orientation as opposed to portrait. And it does this without losing quality. But if you want this to just happen automatically, you can make use of the center stage settings. And to do this, just hit this little icon at the top of the screen here. It's a little square with a person inside it, and switch on the auto zoom and auto rotate. Now your phone's camera will adapt on the fly to what it sees in front of it. So if there's a group of people and you're trying to take a group shot, it will actually auto switch to the landscape mode. And if it's just you, it can zoom in or zoom out a bit to get more in the frame using the phone's AI. Okay, if you're still here, then that means you're a true legend and I appreciate you the most. And as a reward for making it this far into the video, here's some bonus quickfire tips just for you. Am I right? There's nothing worse than having a bad signal whilst on an important phone call. And there is a quick solution to this, and it's a feature that's actually switched off by default on the iPhone. To switch it on, go to settings, scroll down to apps, go to phone, and turn on Wi-Fi calling. Now, if your signal sucks, but you have Wi-Fi in your location, your phone can then take and make calls via the Wi-Fi network as opposed to your mobile data. Here's another camera feature this year that's brand new, but this one's in regards to video mode. It's called dual video capture, and this allows you to film picture-in-picture content, and you could even move around the positioning of the picture-in-picture screen if you want to. To access this, just open up your camera, hit the 6 dots in the top right corner, and then you'll see dual capture. Now this is quite a niche use case, but if you ever want to take photos using your iPhone from a distance, let's say you've set it up on a tripod and you're trying to take a photo of an entire group of people, and whilst including yourself too, did you know that if you have AirPods, you can actually use them as a shutter button? It's very easy to do. Just make sure your AirPods are connected to your iPhone, pop the lid, now go into your settings, tap on the AirPods settings, and here you should see the camera remote option. Have a look at the options you have here. And once this is set up, you can use a quick pinch on an AirPod to start a 3-second timer. This could be convenient on some occasions. All right, this is very useful if you're the type of person who lets other people use your phone from time to time. You can thank me later for this. Hold your finger down on your Photos app. Here you'll see the option to require Face ID. Matter of fact, you should probably do this for all your apps that you consider sensitive. If you don't want someone rummaging through your emails, for example, hold your finger down on that and require Face ID. Now, whenever you hand your phone to someone to use briefly or to play a game or whatever, they can't jump into all your private stuff and start snooping around. Ever wanted to know precisely how much battery life you have left? Do this. Go to settings, go to battery. Switch on the battery percentage. Now, when it comes to battery percent, you'll know
Precisely, Robin.
You mean
Precisely. Precisely.
what you got left. All right, this is a nice feature to play around with in your photo library. Take a look at a photo where there's a clear subject in the frame. At the top, if you see this little hexagon icon, this means that that photo can be transformed into a spatial image. So if you're scrolling through your old photos, this feature can add a bit more life to those photos. Okay, do you remember the end scene in Avengers Endgame where Tony Stark has kind of uploaded a version of himself into a computer? Well, you can kind of do that with your iPhone using your voice. Here's how to do it. Go to accessibility, go to personal voice. Now, you are going to have to read about 150 different sentences to create your own personal voice. But once you've done it, it can then be shared with other people who have iPhones, and it can also be used in various Apple apps as well. Anyway, I hope this video has helped you in some way. And listen, I know there's going to be someone out there in the comments saying they knew all of this stuff already. And to that person, all I can say is
chill out. Dickwad.
And for those of you that appreciate this video or got any value out of it, if you wouldn't mind, I really want you to subscribe.
And I've on a toilet made out of solid gold, but it's just not in the cards now, is it?
And if you just subscribed, I'll see you in the next one. Don't be late.